Okay, this is the third time I've done this video, and I hope this one turns out better. First one, my head was cut off right here. The second one, I had a light at an angle where it was accentuating my turkey neck. So now I'm going to try something that, where my light's over here now. We'll see if this works better. I'm still learning, so hopefully I'll get this right this time. Okay, I'm going to cover basically what you need to do if you're going to go on a long cruise. And this isn't comprehensive, but it's the things that we found out when we were going on long cruises. So some things that never occurred to me until I took a long cruise. So that's kind of more or less what I'm going to cover here. And then also just some common sense things also. The first thing I think that's really important is to get good travel insurance, or at least travel insurance. We've almost always gotten our money back. For example, on the ship, it will run you several $100s just to go see the doctor and get some medicine. Several times I've gotten sinus infections while we've been traveling, and then I go to the ship's doctor and they'll give me some antibiotics and cough medicine, that kind of stuff. And as you can imagine, whatever's going to be on the ship is going to be way more than what you're going to pay when you're in port. So we more or less break even a lot of times on our insurance costs. So we buy full year travel insurance typically, and because we do travel a lot, probably 6 months out of the year. So it's pretty cost effective for us. Okay, second thing, number two item is if you're on a long cruise, you may be in the middle of the ocean, and if something goes wrong at home, you can't just jump on an airplane and head home. You have to wait until you get to a port. And the port you get to may not be close to an airport. And so you may have to actually get to a port, and then from that port, you may have to, if you're on an island, you may have to take a ferry to another island and then get on a plane at that island. So it may be a little more complicated to get back home. So we have a good neighbor, and that's probably the best thing you can have, is either a neighbor, a friend, a family member, somebody just kind of keeping an eye on your house, provided you have a home if you're not a nomad. And we do have a house. We're not nomads yet anyway. Maybe someday, but not yet. So like I've said, you can't jump on a plane. So kind of have a plan in place if something goes wrong. And then hopefully you will never have to use your plan. So we've been home now for 3 weeks. We just got off a world cruise. And that world cruise lasted almost 4 months. And I think that some people think that when you go on a cruise, you have to gain weight. And that's not true. I didn't gain any weight at all. Matter of fact, my weight was a little bit down from what it is at home. For some reason, I eat more at home. I don't know why. But anyway, on the cruise ship, you kind of get on and then you go through this eating phase. And then after a while, you just say that's enough. And then you kind of cut back to what you normally eat. And I do get more exercise on a cruise ship because I tend to walk a lot more. I walk the decks, and I usually get in my 10,000 steps a day by walking the decks. Let's see what I should mention. Oh yeah, home insurance, that's another biggie. So if you're gone more than 30 days, some insurance policies call your house vacant. They reclassify your house apparently. Now, I don't know anybody this has happened to. I just know that I saw it, read about it on the internet, so I checked our policy and we were okay. Our policy doesn't do that, but it's something that I would have never occurred to me. I just thought, oh yeah, just leave your house, and have somebody check on it once in a while. But some insurance companies consider your house vacant, and they say, we don't cover vacant houses. So in other words, that's kind of their way of getting out of paying you if something goes wrong during that beyond 30-day period. So something to consider. You may have to change your insurance. So like I said, I don't know anybody that's happened to, but it's something to consider. Water heater, of course. You don't want your water heater running the whole time you're gone. So usually a lot of them have vacation modes. So you just put it on vacation mode so it doesn't come on. Otherwise, you're just wasting energy keeping your water hot because you're not going to be there. And we have it so that I get emails on the amount of bills that come out of our account. And so, for example, our water bill, we'll get an email that says how much our water bill is, and we'll get another email that says how much our power bill is. It's just a nice thing to monitor, to know what's going on. For example, let's say that normally you have a $30 water bill while you're gone, and all of a sudden it jumps up to $200. So you know you've probably got a leak somewhere, and so it's something you got to take care of. So that's very useful. I did talk to a guy on the ship, and he has all these sensors set up all around his house, so he knows when he gets a water leak. So that's a little more proactive than I want to be, but you can certainly do it if you know how to do it, or you can hire somebody to do it, I'm sure. And the other thing that we did is we have cameras at the front door, backyard, pretty much all around the house, even on the inside. And we're able to monitor them online. It's pretty useful if you get an alert that somebody's at the front door, and you can look and see who it is. Typically it's somebody selling stuff, so we've never had problems with anything else. And there's two biggies that I need to cover, which are common sense, but you may or may not think about them. One is your taxes. When we left, we didn't get in all of our tax information, the 1099s, all that stuff, because we left in January. And then we didn't get back until May. So during that time period, we got tax information in, and then you're supposed to file April 15th. So prior to leaving, I had to guess how much our taxes would be, because that's what you have to do when you do an extension. You guess how much you owe in taxes. And so fortunately we didn't owe anything, so we filled in the forms and sent it in and filed an extension, and then we just filed our taxes not too long ago with the correct information. So something else to think about. And then the other biggie, of course, is the mail. And what we did is we have a neighbor pick it up every 30 days. So the post office allows you to put your mail on hold for 30 days. And then I don't think there's a limit as to how many times you can do it. We did it, and then you have to wait a day or two, and then you can do it again. When I say do it, I mean on hold 30 days. So you got 30, 30, 30, 30, that kind of stuff. And then our neighbor comes over, and I tell the mail delivery service to deliver the mail after 30 days. So they stuff it in her mailbox. Sometimes they put it in front of the house in a bin. So she came over, grabbed the mail, and then just saved it until we got back. And so we did that 4 times. So she picked it up 3 times. She picked it up 3 times, and then the last time we picked it up. And I have a special item here called nail clippers. You don't realize how important nail clippers are until you don't have nail clippers. And I'm talking about the big ones, not the tiny ones. We bring a bunch of nail clippers. So we bring 4 or 5 nail clippers. The other thing is, if you live in a really cold place, and if your thermostat has batteries, I'm not sure what the solution is to this, but you need to make sure that you have at least brand new batteries in your thermostat so your heater comes on in your house so your pipes don't freeze on the inside of your house. I don't know what the solution is to that because I don't live in a cold place, but I talked to a guy I used to work with, and that happened to him. He had left his house for a month or 2, and it was during the winter. He lived in upstate New York. The batteries on his thermostat died, and the heater never came on, and he had some frozen pipes in his house. So I had to deal with that. So, like I said, I don't know what the solution is to that, but it's something you need to be aware of. Oh yeah, application for all the various ports. And I'll give the example of New Zealand and Australia because we were not prepared when we showed up at the cruise terminal on our world cruise. We were supposed to have a couple of these travel documents for New Zealand and Australia already applied for. And I don't know if they had to be approved, but for sure they had to be applied for. So we ended up having to do that at the cruise port. Unfortunately, it didn't take very long. The whole process was probably half an hour or so, and then we got that all done. But if you're going to places like, I can think of one, Vietnam. Vietnam took us a while to get our visa. And it kept getting rejected for some strange reason. I don't know why. And then I reapplied. And I'm sure I'm sure it's the same for other places. I think maybe Hong Kong needs a visa too, China. I decided not to bring all my electronics. So I have a laptop, you know, a Mac. I have an iPad. I have an iPhone, Kindle, a Fire, all that stuff. And I said, oh, I'm not going to need all this stuff. Well, I wish I had brought it because there's times when, you know, it's just convenient to have a Kindle and you want to maybe be up in the buffet reading something, you know, and you don't have a laptop you have to lug around. It's just a little more convenient, and it doesn't take up that much more room to bring these electronics with you. So I'm a big fan of bringing all your electronics with you. And I just put up a video on using Google Translate because that was so handy. We didn't go to Tokyo this time, but we've been there about a year ago, I think it was. It's a little difficult to get around in Tokyo if you don't find somebody that can speak English, or whatever you're looking at happens to be in English, because there's a lot of things written in Japanese and you have no idea what they are. So using Google Translate, it was wonderful. It's like magic. And so I'd strongly suggest that you at least have it installed on your smartphone. And I believe you need to have an internet connection of some kind. You know, you can't just, I don't think that it works without an internet connection. I haven't tried it, but I'm pretty sure it needs an internet connection. Oh, the folding things, yes. So these things here, so these fold up, and you can stuff them in a suitcase, and then you unfold them, and I'm sure there's other things you can use, but this is just what I happen to have. And these are really good because you can put your clothes in here, the clothes you want to fold up, put them in here, and then you basically turned a shelf into a chest of drawers. And very handy. I didn't know about them until somebody commented on one of my videos that, you know, I needed some way, because I was rolling things up and just sticking them on the shelf, and somebody commented that probably wasn't the best idea. So I thought, oh yeah, I'll get these. And these were really cheap too. We got them at Kmart. There's a Kmart and I can't remember if it's Australia or New Zealand, or maybe it was both. But they still have Kmart there. And they were, like I said, really cheap. I think it was just a few dollars, but you can't even buy lunch for that now. And I'm going to cover medical stuff now. Now, as far as medical goes, I think everybody that has some kind of prescription or takes a prescription knows ahead of time what they're going to need for the trip. So we don't take any medications, not yet. And so we just bring over-the-counter stuff mainly. And that includes, I always bring Band-Aids and Neosporin, because invariably I cut myself somehow on the ship, in the room, on the port, somewhere. And so I have to keep myself from getting an infection, so I hit it with Neosporin and a Band-Aid, usually, no matter how small the cut is. Something that I found really useful is cough syrup, cough drops. A lot of times I get a cough on the ship, so a number of people do. And especially at night, if you're having a hard time sleeping, you know, you wake up and you're coughing a lot, the cough syrup will knock you out, and then at least you can get a decent night's sleep. And the cough drops are just kind of a, you know, a thing to have. It's nice to have during the day, you know, to kind of keep you from coughing all over the place. The other thing I bring is ibuprofen and Tylenol. I have a occasional back problem, and so I bring my one of those back braces that goes around your back, and then usually what fixes it is the back brace and ibuprofen, and then I do that for a few days, and then I'm back to normal. So I bring all that stuff with me. I have Dayquil and NyQuil listed here also. Those are always good to have. And I do need to mention that if you have Sudafed, as I understand it, I don't know if it's illegal in Japan or you have to have a prescription, but I know you have to have a prescription in French Polynesia to have Sudafed. So probably just don't bring it with you is the best thing you can do. I think I have some here I think it's expired. But anyway, I bought it a while ago, and then I was going to bring it just in case, and then I realized that the places we were going, I didn't know if it was legal or not, so I just thought, I'll just leave it here. Oh yeah, and our magnetic mattress topper that we have. So I have that under medical because my wife, Kate, she bought this quite a while ago in Hawaii when she lived in Hawaii, and we have it on our bed right now. And she actually folded it up and put it in a big sort of suitcase thing and lugged it down to the cruise port and brought it on board the ship. We put it on top of our bed, and Our room steward made our bed. He had no problems with this mattress topper thing that we had. And it's basically has magnets in it and supposedly promotes blood flow, good health, whatever. So Kate swears by it. It's doesn't hurt anything. So you can bring it with you if you happen to have a magnetic mattress topper. You can bring it on board the ship and use it. And then there's some common sense stuff, like hats and sunscreen. You want to bring that. Snorkel gear, swimsuits, that kind of stuff. The other thing is that we only had a single outlet in our room. So that was an older ship. And a lot of times, the older ships are the ones that do these really long cruises like around the world. So we had one power outlet in our room. And so we brought a power strip. And then it has one of those square, let me see if I have one of those. I don't have one of those here, but anyway, it's a square USB adapter. You plug it in and it has 4 USB ports. And pretty much these days, a lot of stuff uses USB. So you can get a couple of these adapters if you want and just plug everything in. They ask you to unplug things when you leave your room, which I always do. I'm paranoid about fire. Okay, let's talk about clothes. So we brought tons of clothes with us. These huge suitcases full of all kinds of clothes. And it turns out we probably only wore 1/5, 1/10 of the clothes. I don't know. It was hardly any. And that's mainly because we both are elite, so we get laundry on Princess. And you don't want clothes piling up in the room. Let's say that if you had 10 days worth of clothes that you wore and then you pile them all up in the room, first of all, the bags they give you for clothes are really small. And second of all, you're going to have all these clothes all over the place in a small room, which makes it just less convenient to get around. So it's just a good idea to not bring a lot of clothes and then just get them washed regularly so that you've got clean clothes and then you don't have stuff piling up in the room. The other thing is that you go through a bunch of different climate zones. Like we went from California to the South Pacific, around Africa, up to the Mediterranean, over to Florida, through the Panama Canal, then back to LA. So that whole route, you probably go through all kinds of, the only thing we didn't go is we didn't hit anything that was below freezing. But it was chilly in parts of Europe that we visited. So you needed a jacket, and you needed shorts in the South Pacific, and so you needed warm clothes and clothes for cooler weather. So, just layer up. That's the common sense thing to do. And that's what we did. And still, you don't need a lot of clothes for that because the clothes for summer are going to be much smaller than the clothes for winter. So you're still going to have a lot of room for all this stuff. The other thing is there was a Facebook group that was about this world cruise that people had signed up for. I didn't sign up for it. Kate signed up for it. And people posted all kinds of interesting things there about the cruise. There were, I don't want to call them rumors, but there was a lot of interesting things going on that I'm going to cover that in a different video, but things I didn't know that were happening that were going on that the captain, they don't normally tell you about. And it's not necessarily bad things, but it's just things to be aware of. And I loved the world cruise. I think I have to tell everybody that watches this. We were in an inside cabin, and I may have mentioned this in the past, but balconies are wasted on me. Especially if I got to pay more for it, because I hardly ever go out there. And usually I walk out there, kind of look around for about 5 minutes, and I go back in and then close the curtains. So Kate likes it because she can look out at the ocean. I guess it depends on the person. Oh, so I just thought I'd cover some of the interesting things that we saw on this cruise that I had never seen before and I really liked. One thing was the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I heard about it since I was probably, I don't know, since I was old enough to remember. People talked about the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So I finally saw it up close, and it really surprised me how much it's leaning. It looks like it's ready to fall over. And I guess they've, engineered it so it's not going to do that, but it was kind of an amazing thing to see. The other thing is New Zealand. I'd never been to Australia and New Zealand and loved both of them. New Zealand reminded me a lot of Alaska. You know, a lot of different types of plants than they have in Alaska. But, you know, it's very green, very, all the natural beauty there was amazing. And then you had a population that was, you know, it's not wall-to-wall people like, you know, some parts of the world. So it was really nice. And the cities were nice, clean, everything was very nice. And I found the same thing to be true with Australia. You know, we didn't get off, you know, into the areas that were more rural. You know, we stayed pretty much in the cities. The cities were beautiful, clean. You know, and I'm from the LA area, so I have something to compare it against. And the cities there were just wonderful. Okay, then the other thing I want to mention is that some people on the ship, so this was a world cruise where we started in Los Angeles and then we ended in Los Angeles. And some people didn't like the fact that it was in different segments. The segments are divided up, there was 5 of them, and I believe the first one was Hawaii, the second one was, I think, was that to Cape Town or to Sydney? But anyway, it might have been to Sydney, the second segment. So you had people constantly getting on and off the ship that weren't part of the world cruise, even though it was called a world cruise. And some people didn't like that. The total number that did the LA to LA was around 1,000, I think. The ship held 2,000. So we were disembarking roughly 1,000 people and getting on 1,000 people. So when I say 1,000, I think there was 2 world cruises that you could do. You could do LA to LA or Fort Lauderdale to Fort Lauderdale. And so that number was 1,000 people. And then we had people getting on and off at all the various ports. So some people didn't like that. So I've never been on a world cruise before, so I had nothing to compare it against. I'm not sure why you wouldn't like it. It could be just you get used to a group of people and then all of a sudden they're gone, and then you get used to another group of people. The other thing is that I was surprised how much crew member turnover there is. So it seemed like every new segment we had a bunch of new people in the buffet that I'd never seen before working. I'm saying working in the buffet. You know, and after a while you're chatting with people, you get to know them, you know, like, hi, how are you today? You know, Paul or Joe or whatever. And then all of a sudden they're gone. And they've gotten off the ship and gone to some other place. Or they've moved them to, I don't know, Crown Grill or something. And, oh yeah, one thing about arriving back home, that was kind of interesting. When you're in a small room, it's tough to lose your glasses and your phone. Now you're on a big ship, so it's easy to lose your glasses and your phone on a big ship, but that's never happened to me. But in my room, I could always find my glasses and my phone. Never had any trouble. Or if I'm looking for something else, you know, almost always found it. And then I get home and I set my glasses down and I'm walking around the house and I'm thinking, what did I do with those glasses? And so, you know, our house isn't huge. It's 3-bedroom and 2-story. So I'd end up, you know, having to hit the, you know, find my thing and have it make a noise so I could find my phone. And my glasses were a whole different story. So, but anyway, it's kind of a silly thing, but it's something that's kind of nice when you're in a small room. Yeah, so the thing about segments, as I understand it, you can actually maybe save some money if you can book your world cruise in segments. If we don't book all 5 segments and you just try to book them one at a time, you might not get one of the segments. So in other words, you know, you book 1, and then you book 2, then you book 3, and then all of a sudden 4 is not available, for example. And so you're stuck in South Africa, for example. I don't know, you know, that may have been the 4th segment might be Europe, Rome. So anyway, so you can't continue on the cruise ship anymore. You have to get off and then fly home or catch another cruise ship. So anyway, and some may view that as a fun thing to do, an adventure. So, but we just booked the whole thing port to port and didn't worry about it. So I do hear that we did talk to some people that had casino rates. So as you know, I guess some people know this, the casino rates are the best on a cruise ship. You know, a lot of times they're free if you gamble. And so we've never tried it. I know there are some people that do gamble a lot. And I don't know if they're actually losing, if it costs them more to gamble on the cruise ship than it does to pay for the cruise. We've never delved into that. I'm not sure anybody would admit it. Demographics. Yeah, demographics was interesting because the captain did cover that. He covered how many people were on the world cruise, how many people were going to, be disembarking, embarking on each of the segments. And that was kind of nice. And then he did mention demographics. He said that, there's this many people at this age and this many people at this age. So, on a world cruise, as you imagine, most people are retired that are doing the world cruise. And so you're going to be 65 plus in a lot of cases, most cases, I think. The other interesting thing, though, we had some people that were doing the world cruise, and I don't know all of them, but there were some of them who were actually working on the cruise ship. And the internet connection is pretty good. People were able to work remotely as near as I can tell. And a lot of people that did this, there was like a couple even in the internet cafe, they had set up, actually they were using 2 computers, and I saw a laptop, and then they were on the phone, so they were both doing business the whole time up there. So it is possible to work on a cruise ship if you can work remotely. Okay, well, I think that's about it.